Key modern railways. In-depth railway news.
Hello and welcome to the preview of the October edition of Modern Railways. I suppose the big news is that we've just had a cabinet reshuffle and have still got the same Transport Minister and Rail Minister. Still no rolling programme of electrification, but at least we're looking at hydrogen-powered unmanned submarines for freight. They're probably watching too much Vigil on TV, but never mind. We have plenty of more realistic transport stories for you. First off, here is the editor, Philip Sherratt, to tell you what's coming up. Philip.
Thanks Ian, hello everyone, and it's good to be with you again. It's the October issue of Modern Railways now, and it's another bumper issue for you with a lot to talk about for me. I'm going to start off with our supplement, which is about sustainability. And that's a very hot topic in not just the rail industry, but in all our lives at the moment. And obviously we have the COP26 Climate Change Summit coming up in Glasgow very shortly. So it's a chance for us to review what's going on in rail as regards sustainability. And I think we've got quite comprehensive coverage of a lot of issues. Now obviously a lot of the talk we have is about things like electrification, battery and hydrogen trains, traction decarbonisation. And we do cover that, but as Roger Ford's introductory article to the supplement bears out, there's a lot more to it than that. There's a wide environmental agenda dealing with things like climate change, the impact on the infrastructure, even down to some very small scale projects which, while not significant in their own right, are important in the grand scheme of things. We do have an article about Scotland, which is widely held up as being ahead of the curve as regards decarbonisation. The Scottish Government's published an action plan, which they're putting into practice. So we review what they're doing up there. And we have an article about developments in Wales on the Core Valley lines, where there's smart electrification going on, where they're saving money by not electrifying everything, but having some earth sections and some catenary-free sections as well. And we have an article from HS2 as well about carbon-saving construction, looking at some of the technologies that are being employed on that project, with particular reference to the contractors around Euston. And there's several other articles on there reviewing what various industry organisations are doing around the decarbonisation agenda. So there's quite a lot in there, and I think there's certainly a lot of interest, and it's broader in scope than you might imagine. Now in the main magazine, our focus is on the East Midlands, and we have an update on East Midlands Railway. It's not the franchise anymore, of course, but what they're delivering is what was the franchise plan. It's quite complex, lots of ins and outs with rolling stock, timetable change and so on. Had a big timetable change in May, which has gone very well on the Midland Main Line. The new timetable is working. Less well on the regional routes, where there have been some performance challenges. They had to cut the timetable back. So we cover all of that, developments in rolling stock, and some, obviously, recovery from COVID, and some future gazing as well. And allied to that, the May timetable was reliant on Midland Main Line electrification to Corby, which is now live, which is very good. So we review where that's at. We're looking at getting that extended to Market Harborough. That's not been authorised yet, but we hope it will be soon, and then potentially beyond there to Nottingham and Sheffield. As a resident of the East Midlands, I certainly hope that's coming, and I'll just have to grin and bear the disruption, but we do know that it is worth it. Now, Great British Railways transition is very significant on the agenda at the moment. Roger's carrying on writing about that in his review of the William Shapps plan. So going nicely alongside that, we have an interview with the rail regulator with CEO John Larkinson, who talks to my colleague Andy Roden about Great British Railways, but also various other aspects of the regulator's work and how it sees things going forward. And something a little bit more perhaps off the wall is a concept for a new sleeper service, which has been submitted by a contributor who actually works for ScotRail, but submitted this independently, and he's suggesting that we should build on the success of night trains in Europe. They're having something of a renaissance, with potential to do a north-east to south-west service, broadly Edinburgh to Plymouth, and he sets out what he thinks should be the concept for that. I'm sure that will excite some interest from readers. And we have an overview of entries for the Railway Innovation Awards, which we host in October very shortly. So there's a lot in the magazine, as well as plenty of news and features, updates on developments with COVID, ScotRail's new timetable. I got a detailed review of their proposal for that, information about the first class 777 even being handed over to Merseyrail for my colleague Tony Miles. So there's plenty to report on, and the rail industry continues to keep us busy. So I hope you very much enjoy the issue. We'll be back for November when we have another packed issue to come, including the second of our quarterly features on HS2. But for now, that's it from me, and I'll hand back to Ian.
Thank you, Philip. Next up is Roger Ford. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of signalling. But all of a sudden things are changing, so much so that even I will be writing about a new system next month. This month though, Roger is looking at the new system from Siemens, amongst other things of course. So it's over to another closed station somewhere in the home counties.
Hello there, I was just telling George Bernard Shaw here that Informed Sources is a bit heavy going in this month's, in the middle of this month's column. But anyway, he's waiting for his train, so I'd better get on and tell you about the magazine. As I was saying to GBS just now, this month's Informed Sources has some heavy going stuff in the middle, but on either side of it there's some very interesting new material. I start off with a look at a new low-cost signalling system from Siemens. Back in 1998, the chief executive of Railtrack told me that signalling renewal was unaffordable, which seemed a bit odd, because if a signal organisation can't afford to renew its signalling, there's something severely wrong. Anyway, when Rail came around, they put a challenge to the industry to produce a low-cost form of signalling, which was called modular signalling, and two schemes were installed which seemed to produce necessary savings. A couple of years back I was talking to the people responsible for the East Coast Main Line European Train Control System installation, and once again they told me that signalling renewal was unaffordable by conventional means, which seemed puzzling again. Anyway, not long ago Siemens were awarded a contract to re-signal the Devon and Cornwall routes, which of course are classic examples of where you would want low-cost signalling renewal. So I asked Siemens what was happening, and they explained to me their new system, low-cost digital ready signalling, which has a lot of promise, so I described that. We then get on to my latest attempts to get detail and make sense of the Williams-Shapps review. The interesting thing there is, of course, that as more and more people have noticed, it's very short on detail. So I start by wrestling with how they're going to implement Williams-Shapps to create Great British Railways. And I look at the work of the Department for Transport and also Network Rail's own Great British Railways transition team. From there I move on to the Office of Rail and Road, where they too are looking at the implications of Great British Railways while carry on with work as usual. It looks to me as though the earliest it will be available is something like 2024 for Great British Railways to have its legal powers. And finally, I look at the latest state of play in the Great Class 800 cracking situation, where I noticed recently that the Department for Transport, which of course has the contract with Agility Trains, which owns the fleets, and they sent them what's called a cure letter. That's a legal term for a letter saying, sort this out quickly or else. So quite a lot of interest in there. Some of it may be hard going, but it's essential to understand what's happening. And see you again next month.
Thank you, Roger. Plenty of good reading there. Now, on to my Pan Up column, which this month is in 3 parts. My main feature is on Norwich Crown Point Depot. The original plan was to visit the depot on my superannuated anorak trip featured last month, but that didn't work out, and there probably wouldn't have been enough space to cover it properly anyway. I returned with 2 other retired engineers who had been involved with Crown Point in days gone by. Needless to say, it's changed a lot and left us ex-BR people rather jealous of the resources available, not to mention the trains. It was an interesting day, so I hope it makes an interesting read too. From the good to the bad. And I admit to a bit of bias here. as regular readers will know, I never liked the idea of converting the Class 319s to DMUs, or bimodes, or tri-modes, or whatever. I did have an early tip-off about the project from Pullsbrook, but I thought I was doing them a favour by not writing it up. Well, it went ahead anyway, and suffice to say, the trains have not covered themselves in glory. And time is running out before they get replaced anyway. I'll take a look at some of the problems and try to avoid gloating. Not sure if I succeed with that, I'll let you decide. Then, from the bad to the absurd, at least in my opinion. Cross Country have named a train after a rail crash. Well, I know this makes the submarine idea sound sensible. I'm not making it up. I'm not disrespecting those who died at Hixon in 1968. The memorial at the site is a fitting tribute. But a nameplate on the side of a train? Obviously, most passengers who see the plates as they board will have no idea what it's about. But if they bother to look it up, it won't inspire confidence. At Hixon, a West Coast Main Line express hauled by E3009 hit a lorry carrying a transformer on a level crossing, and 11 people died. Tragic, and although improvements were made, level crossings remain a clear and present danger. Does it make sense to remind passengers this when they step on a train? How would you feel boarding a 747 named Lockerbie? You can probably tell I'm a lot more annoyed about this than I can say on here, but I think it's already time for the chaps at Central Rivers to get their tamper-proof screwdrivers out and get those plates off. That's it for this month then. I hope you enjoy this edition and it keeps you amused now the nights are drawing in. So, bye for now everybody.
Visit www.keymodernrailways.com for more interesting and essential information about the British Railway Network.